Hey guys, I just wanted to come on and pray over your week. I had a video earlier, or I went live earlier, but for some reason it didn't post, but neither here nor there. I take notes. So I just wanted to pray over your week. This starts the summer. This is still June 1st. I think the first day of summer is like next week or either this week, but I thought about like Summer with Christ, or like a Walking It Out with Christ, a summer series. Surviving dry season, surviving singleness, surviving all of the things that have a tendency to kind of get us down during the summer. And so this week, I want to focus on what to do when it feels like you're in a dry season. And it has definitely felt like a dry season for me. It felt like resources were dried up. It felt like jobs were dried up. It felt like relationships dried up. You name it. It felt dried up. And it made me think about, of course, Ezekiel. And so I'm going to read Ezekiel 37, 1-6 for you to kind of get some context to our focus this week. And then it'll make sense soon in a minute. So I'm going to read the NIV version, Ezekiel 37. I'm going to read 1-6. It says, "The hand of the Lord was on me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of a valley." So even when you're thinking about from a scriptural standpoint what a valley represents, right? A low place, right? And it was full of bones. So in this low place, it was bones, things that were dead, right? And so I don't know about you guys, but I've been in a low place where honestly it felt like nothing around me was alive and everything was just bones, and they were representations of past seasons or different things that I have gone through. And so verse 2 says, "He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. He asked me, 'Son of man, can these bones live?'" One of the things that sticks out in this was that it says he led me back and forth among them. And so that means that he continued to see the same thing over and over again. And so even in this moment, I'm questioning myself like, well, I have been in a dry season for a minute. What is the Lord trying to show me? Why am I back and forth in this same space or in this same season? And it says, "And I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley." So then it reminds us again that we're in a low place. And there are a great many bones, a great many of reminders of different things we've been through, and reminders of things that have failed, right? Or things that are dead. And then it says, "He asked me, 'Son of man, can these bones live?'" I've asked myself several times, like, and I'm not even going to say I've asked myself. I've honestly prepped myself several times in terms of like, no, the Lord can do this, the Lord can do that. But when you're walking back and forth in a season of dry bones, can these bones live? And he said, it says, "I said, Sovereign Lord, you alone know." That part right there really hits home, because I think about like having to encourage yourself or really spending time with the Lord. Oh, let me go back. So even in that scripture, you're realizing that he's having a conversation with the Lord. And so oftentimes we skip over that conversation piece. We'll go back and forth in dry spaces, or we'll go back and forth in terms of things being a constant reminder of what hasn't happened or things that are dead in our lives. But we don't necessarily go to the next step of having a conversation with the Lord about it, right? Or the Lord having a conversation with us about it, because it says, "He asked me, 'Son of man, can these bones live?' And I said, 'Sovereign Lord, you alone know.'" And the beautiful thing about Christ is, or about God, is that it will be whatever he said it will be. So then you have to be able to understand what season you're in, right? Match it up with the word, but then be able to, you know what I mean? Like, what is the Lord saying to you? So that's what I mean when I say match it up with the word. And it says, "Then he said to me, prophesy to these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you and you will come to life." I'm going to read that part again. This is verse 4 and 5. "Then he said to me, prophesy to these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. to these bones, I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. And so what do we do in dry seasons, right? When we think about, you're looking at these, I think it goes back to the scripture above, and it's like all the bones on the floor, and you're seeing something, and generally when you see bones there, it represents death, right? And so my thought is like, you're not dead, you're just dry. And even in dry seasons, God will still breathe on you. And that is a hard word to hear, especially when it feels like you can't feel the wind of God or the breath of God anywhere. But it says right here, prophesy to these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. So my prayer is that the Lord will make breath come into those dry spaces so that you will be able to come to life again. That he'll speak and give breath to those resources, that he'll speak and give breath to that job, that he'll speak and give breath to those situations, of those people, or those relationships. I mean, and really the ones that come from him, right? Because all good things aren't God things. And it says, and I will attach tendons to you and will make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. And so what if the Lord is taking us into these spaces, right, where we're going back and forth of seasons that seem dry, and to literally watching things that we thought were or possibilities, rather, lay on the ground dead. And he's telling us that they can live simply because he said they can live. So when we think about our situations or areas in our life that may be dry, where all we can see is carcasses of things that used to exist, or even of ourselves, being reminded that the Lord reminds us that we have the power to prophesy to the bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Not hear the voice of Brittany, not hear the voice of you, but hear the word of the Lord, right? Because we often get caught up in our feelings and our emotions. And instead of giving situations the word, we give it our heart. Instead of giving it the scripture, we give it our emotions. We give it our feelings, right? And so it's saying, this is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you and will come to life. So it's time for things to come to life. It's time for you. I feel like we've been walking around these bones, these dry bones, for way too long. It says he led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. Situations in your life that were very dry, resources, finances, job, you name it, all of these things that were very dry. And it says, he asked me, Son of man, can these bones live? Prophesy to your situation. You're not dead. Your situation isn't dead. It's just dry. Allow the Lord to speak life into it. And again, one of the things that sticks out in that scripture is, hear the word of the Lord. Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. So I think that is another reminder for us to be mindful about what comes out of our mouth, for us to be mindful about even just being able to interpret a season and watching, like, at least for me, what we come into agreement with. Because I can't say that I've been focused lately. I think I got so tired of rehearsing or being down by the dry bones that I decided to create a new reality for myself that didn't quite fit. Another question the Lord asked me was, what was my reputation? What was his reputation with me? And so on this journey this week of kind of dissecting, or really just kind of focusing on what to do when you feel like you're in a dry season, thinking about the Lord's reputation, and even just thinking about, I have some more notes, I can pull them up in 1 second, even just thinking about like being honest about being tired, right? But also thinking about, where is my notes? Oh, also, I don't know if I said this, but Ezekiel 37, 1-6 is what I read, okay? But thinking about the areas of your life that feel dry right now, right? And what would it sound like for you to prophesy to those areas? And so that is, I'll post that later, like just in terms of, I'm going to reflect on that, and I encourage you to as well. What are the areas of your life that feel dry right now? And then what would it sound like for you to prophesy to those areas, right? So again, I just kind of wanted to come on and pray over your week, because generally that's what I do. Today is a Tuesday. And then you can kind of journal with me. I'll post a journal more than likely on Thursday. Or maybe Friday, or maybe towards the end of the week, to give us some time to reflect, right? But either way, our theme this week, dry but not dead. The scripture that we're going to anchor this in is Ezekiel 37, 1-6. I will make breath into you and you will come to life. And then the piece about earlier in the scripture, I think it's like verse 2, maybe. I can check it in a second, where it says, prophesy the word of the Lord. Not the word of your insecurities, not the word that comes sometimes with not being sure about certain things, but really just taking a focus to be able to walk this thing out with Christ, right? Walking out our dry seasons with Christ. And so I pray that God would breathe life back into you this season, that he would bring life into your routines, into your creativity. I pray that he would touch every single thing that is concerning you in this moment, that he would breathe life into your resources, that he will breathe life into just you, that he would restore the joy, that the joy of the Lord would be your strength, that you would find yourself found. That you may, that even in the midst of feeling dry or feeling like you've rehearsed these same things, or you've walked over or stepped over the same dry reminders in your life, that you would allow him, that you would speak his word and allow him to breathe life into it. So I pray that you have a week full of resurrections. I pray that you have a week full of life and reminders of God's promises. Can these dry bones live? So that is something to think about. I just wanted to come on and share that. And also it's a prayer of your week. And also just encourage you to engage with me this week. Trying something different this summer. Walking it out with Christ. Surviving dry season. Surviving singleness. Surviving, all of the things. You name it, right? Surviving growth with God. Surviving silent seasons, you name it, but just really focusing on surviving this time with Christ. So this summer we're going to make the decision to walk it out with Jesus, and he will provide the strategies for us. So I pray that you would join me. Be on the lookout for other posts. Obviously, it's cool if you like or you follow, but I'm more interested in the fact that that it actually means something, that the Lord's actually able to speak to you, or that, that's what's important. It's kingdom business, right? But I hope you have a great and amazing week, and that the Lord just be with you, and that he would speak life over these things. I'm rambling now, but have a great week.